Ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube world, what is poppin', locking, and what is dropping, baby? Welcome to What I Eat in a Week to Lose Some Weight. That is right. Yeah! So today's breakfast, we're going to be starting off something muy fantastico. What we got here is something super simple and super basic. 3 hard-boiled eggs, but I'm only going to be eating one of the yolks because I'm not a big fan of hard-boiled yolks. 1 whole egg with 2 hard-boiled egg whites, 6 Butterball turkey sausage links, and this Oikos Pro, basically an adult version of Danimals. This is 140 calories with 23 grams of protein. This right here is 220 calories with 22 grams of protein, and each egg is 70 calories with 6 grams of protein. Now, I believe the egg whites are like 12 calories each or something like that with 6 grams of protein. Once I devour this guy up, I'll kind of go over the macros with everyone. Y'all. Alright, so we got the macros here. We got 472 calories with 59 grams of protein, 9 grams of carbs, and 21 grams of fat with 0 grams of fiber. Fortunate. 5 grams of sugar and 1,214 milligrams of sodium. So a little high on the sodium, but I mean, it's kind of what you get with sausage. Sausage is pretty high in sodium, as it is. But yeah, so these are the macros for the breakfast. So I'll see you guys when I get to lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, what we got going on for lunch here, something super simple, super easy, and super high in protein for the calories. We have 3 naked chicken tenderloins with these 3 cauliflower hash browns, which, by the way, are actually really good. They have a nice crispy exterior with a nice fluffy interior. And for the sauce, I have Taste Flavor Co.'s Buffalo Blue Cheese. They go really well with chicken too. So we have 1 serving of that per each tender. It's only 5 calories per serving from this guy too, so keep that in mind. And of course we have a bottle of water for the beverage. Chow down on this, and I'll get with you guys when we go over the macros. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the macros here for the chicken tender lunch. We have 360 calories with 41 grams of protein, 33 grams of carbs, 8 grams of fat, with 5 grams of fiber, 2 grams of sugar, and 473 milligrams of sodium. So, pretty simple, pretty basic, pretty easy lunch, with the protein being over the calories, of course. So, and it's a nice little thing that kind of gets you through the day as well. Gentlemen of the YouTube world, we are getting ready for dinner. So, this is technically a day before of the lunch and breakfast, just because this is going to be like a full-on recipe video. So I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my anabolic bolognese. That's right. In the mood for some ground beef, some pasta, and some tomato sauce, well, here in the anabolic diet in the kitchen, we got you. Mamma mia, marron, taraparesto, whatever, how do we say it? I'm going to show you guys what I'll be using throughout this entire recipe, and how I'll be cooking it, how I'll be preparing it, and how you can meal prep it for everyone throughout the entire week if you plan on making this your meal prep for the week. That's right. Let's get this party started. Get yourself a large saucepan like so. Next, you're going to get yourself some pink Himalayan salt or whatever salt you choose, and you're going to go ahead and put a poo ton of salt in here. You know, honestly, I probably shouldn't say the word poo and food together. Sometimes people put oil in it. Do not do that. 1, it's unnecessary added calories, and 2, your pasta does not need it. So next step we're going to do is we're going to take our pot and then just fill it up with water, essentially. Once your pot is full of your salted water, you're going to go ahead and put it on your range or stovetop. Crank that soldier boy to high, and essentially you're going to let this, or give it to a boil. So while we are waiting for this to go to a boil, we're going to go ahead and prepare our meat and veggies. Alright, for this next part, we're going to need ourselves a chopping board and a very sharp knife. So for this example, we use a chopping knife to chop up our vegetables. Seems like common sense to me. First thing we're going to be needing is 1 red onion. So I like red onions. Red onions, to me, are pretty good with beef. So I'm going to be showing you basically how I chop an onion. I had to move the camera angle just because of me cutting it with my right hand versus my left hand. So all you're going to do I'm going to chop off the ponytail. I don't know what the actual name it is. The stem, I guess, because the root's down here. So you're going to expose the root. You like the root being exposed because it prevents you from those juices from coming into your eye and you start crying and so on. So it's kind of like it's the onion's defense mechanism in a way. And then you're going to do is you're going to take your onion. Oh man, this is a tough step. You're going to chop it up like so. Or chop it up in half. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, if you get yourself a plate to store all your vegetables on, that would be recommended as well. So you're going to take 1/2 of your onion. And then what I like doing, I actually like taking off the top layer of it. The reason being is because the onion, the top layer of the onion is the gummiest, right? And so anything under that, it's going to give you more of a fresher, crisper taste. So you can just take it and peel it like so. Especially if your onions are older, best way to do it. So how to chop an onion with the stem on, of course. Basically, you're going to do is you're going to cut it in like this, but you're going to go not all the way, but almost to the root. And you're going to do the same thing, going one more layer under, just kind of sawing it through like so. And then you're going to make little ridges on the onion like that. So basically you're going to be chopping it straight up and down or horizontal and making sure that you don't cut all the way to the root. Then afterwards you're going to do, once you get everything kind of aligned, you're just going to chop the onion like so. And then you're going to get these really nice diced pieces. As you just kind of keep going all the way through. Get stuck, you can kind of fan it out like that. And then that you got yourself some perfectly chopped onion. Or perfectly diced onion, I should say. So you can take all this, put it onto your plate, brush it off. Always use the underside of the knife because if you use the sharp part of the knife, you will increase the dulling of it. So we're gonna cut the other half and we'll get to the mushrooms. Adding some baby Bella mushrooms. Now, specifically these are 8 ounces. Now, one thing you never wanna do is you don't wanna wash your mushrooms. The reason being is because mushrooms are stored with water. These guys are like sponges. And so washing them essentially is you're just gonna get like more water into them, and when we cook that, we don't really want it. So best thing to do is if you see any dirt like this, you can just kind of wipe it off. Take like a paper towel or a sponge and just kind of clean them off. Clean all that excess dirt off. And then I'll be showing you guys how I dice up mushroom. Pretty simple. I mean, you get the pre-sliced ones, it makes it even easier. So usually separate the stem from the top and then just kind of do that. Chopping them up and then add them to your dish and then just chop it up, mushrooms like that, and you can go through them in. You don't have to separate the stem, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So you just take your mushroom and you cut it up like this. And if they're all in strips, you can take those all in strips, chop them up, and add them to your vegetable dish. So we'll do that with 8 ounces of mushrooms. Once that's done, I'll show you guys what the next steps are. And just like that, you'll have your chopped mushrooms up like so. An easier way to do this, if you have a food processor, just toss your mushrooms in there and just pulse it a couple times, and essentially you get the chopped mushrooms. Now, I'm not going to put all of them into the plate, just because I could just scoop this onto whatever we need to do next. But we're also going to need 3 pounds of pure ground beef, specifically 93.7 ground beef. This will incorporate our magnificent protein that we're going to be adding to this. So the leaner the beef, the more protein and less of the calories. So I've seen ground beef as low as like 94, but 93.7 is cheaper than 94 and the calorie difference is not that bad. So that's why I would recommend that. So essentially these are going to be our meat and vegetables for our bolognese. but I think I hear the pot boiling, so we're gonna go ahead and add our pasta in. All right, so we have a small boil going on here, but that's good enough for what we need. So the pasta of choice that we're gonna be using is this. The brand is called Kaizen, 20 grams of protein, 6 net carbs, 15 grams of fiber, 130 calories per serving. So we have 3 boxes here. We got 8 ounces total. So, and then you're gonna have to pay attention to your instructions on the pasta. So this says boil for about 5 minutes per serving. Or not per serving, sorry. It's gonna be 5 minutes or until proper texture is met. So we're gonna add all that in. And then I have a little pasta spoon here. And we're gonna mix all that together like so. And we're gonna let that sit. And we're gonna let it cook for about 5 minutes. So once this is done, we'll come back for the pasta. Actually, while we wait for the pasta to cook, we're gonna go ahead and get a large saucepan out. And we're gonna crank that soldier boy to high. We're gonna be cooking our protein and our vegetables in here. So the first thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be adding a little bit of avocado oil spray, just to give it some lubrication to the pan so we don't get as much sticking. Also, with more lean beef, there's less fat, which means it's not going to be as what we call, it's going to stick to the pan a little bit more. But if you have a non-stick pan, you should be good. Next thing you do is take your packets of ground beef. I just cut it in a slit, and we're going to go ahead and add this to our saucepan, like so. You can squeeze most of it out. We should start hearing some sizzling. That means it should be ready to start cooking. So we're gonna add the rest of the meat in here. So we got the meat going here, and if you guys go ahead and season it while it's raw. I have salt, pepper, and garlic. Just a simple blend here. Add as much as you want for flavoring. And you're gonna do is you're gonna take a meat masher and you're gonna pound and twist, or use any kind of utensil to help separate the beef from clogging up together. You also want to start checking on your pasta too. This one specifically has like a lot of foam bubbles, so if a lot of it comes up, that means it's about to be done. Just lower your temperature down a bit, and just let your pasta kind of simmer together. I don't know if you can see on here, but we have some grease building up in here. We do want that because it is flavor for our sauce. So you're just gonna kind of let this keep cooking, although we're actually gonna go ahead and add our vegetables to this as well. So we want our vegetables to cook with the beef, because what's gonna happen is the vegetable juices is going to mix in with the meat and give it a whole new flavor. Although we're only gonna add half the mushrooms in here. The other half of the mushrooms we're gonna add to the sauce to itself. And then you still wanna kind of go ahead and mix everything together, like so. The seasoned beef and then the vegetables. Everything just kind of cook together and render out. Also, the vegetables will help absorb that grease as well. So another reason to put these vegetables in here, especially the mushrooms. So once we get this all cooked about, we're gonna go ahead and carry on to our next steps. All right, so we just checked up on our pasta and it's looking pretty al dente. One thing you want to check for when you do this, check for your pasta texture. So you can just take it, eat a little bit, and it's got that al dente taste. It's exactly what you want. All you're gonna do is take your pasta, take a strainer, just strain it out, and you're gonna let it chill out for a bit. It will start to dry up a little bit, but it'll resume moisture once we put the sauce on top of it. So strain it out, and then we'll continue on with the sauce. Next step is make sure your pan or your pot is on a very low temperature, because we're gonna be then adding in our crushed tomatoes. So I got about 58 ounces of crushed tomatoes and tomato puree going into the pot. Make sure it's on a low simmer when you do this too, or else it'll like explode on you. And I actually tried to open this can and the can actually exploded on me. So now I got a big mess I gotta clean up. So yay me. So our meat mixture is looking like it's about to be done, which is very magnifical. But first we're gonna do is we're going to be adding in our ingredients to our sauce. We're going to be needing some minced garlic. I add a bunch in here we'll say like 2 tablespoons of garlic, some black pepper. I say about a tablespoon of that. You cannot have red sauce without oregano, so we're going to be adding about a 1/4 cup of oregano. Of course, we're going to add some salt to taste. And then we're going to give this guy a nice little stir. If you've never cooked with tomato sauce before, it could be a hassle and a half. Just an FYI. We're also going to be adding the rest of our mushrooms in here. Just kind of give that a gentle little scoop. Make sure, try not to get them everywhere like what I'm doing. I am a very messy cook, by the way. Just a little heads up for that. Into our dish like so. Basically, you want to get the sauce heated up. You can turn up the heat a little bit more to get this all jamming around. Like so. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding in our secret ingredient. Part skim ricotta cheese. So we're going to take this guy, we're going to put the whole container, the entire 15 ounces. Take this whole thing and scoop it right into there. Try not to make a mess. And we're going to mix that into our sauce as well. Get that all heated up. Be good to go. So the reason why we add the part skim ricotta cheese, a couple reasons. One, it's really going to help fight the acidity of the tomatoes. And 2, it's added protein. So a serving of that is 70 calories with 6 grams of protein. So essentially what we're doing is we're actually increasing our sauce protein. Makes it a little bit more anabolic. And it's only 70 calories per serving too. So the entire container is 7 servings. So we're gonna get a nice, flavorful, protein-based sauce. Afterwards, we're going to be doing now, once your meat's all cooked up and your vegetables have been wilted, we're going to incorporate all of this into the sauce. And we're going to let it simmer. Simmer, simmer, and simmer. All this to here, including the grease. Because the grease comes from the 7% fat for the beef, and all that is flavor. So we definitely want to add, and there it goes. And you want to add all that flavor into there. I'm also putting my arm over the open flame, which is probably not the safest thing in the world. So mix that in. It's going to be pretty runny at first too. Just be cautious. I mean, it'll thicken up once you start stirring it around, which is exactly what we want. The bolognese is going to be pretty thick, so we want a nice thick bolognese. Thick. And essentially you're just going to let this guy simmer for like 5 to 10 minutes. Let all the flavor incorporate itself in there, and you're going to have a great tasting bolognese, baby. Show you guys what it looks like, but here is the bolognese sauce itself. It looks very good, very tasty, and very scrumptious. So let's go ahead and get in assembling. Okay, so we got our pasta done here. It does look a little weird, but because it's not, actually pasta, it's going to be all clumpy looking. So for servings for this guy, the entire box was 24 servings. So we're going to divide that up by 6, which gives us 4. So we're going to need 4 ounces per bowl. Okay, so I lied. So we're looking around like 11 ounces per serving. There are a lot in here, but once I kind of calculate everything, we'll get a better measurement on it. I don't really have a ladle, so I have this. So we can just go ahead, give this a nice stir, scoop it up, and place your sauce onto here like so. This kind of looks more like a vodka sauce than it does a bolognese, just because of that ricotta cheese. But yeah, so we're gonna even distribute the sauce between everything, and then we're gonna add our final ingredient to make this dish complete. All right, so the last thing we're gonna need to make this basically perfection is some Parmesan cheese. So there's 28 servings, but you got 20 calories for 2 grams of protein. So with 5 ounces total, you just divide that by 3, and then you get your distribution everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and weigh that, place it on, and then we're gonna sit down and eat and give basically all the macros at the very end. Ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube world, we have completed the dish, and this is what we have. That's right. And it's dripping all over my camera. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the completed product. The nice anabolic bolognese. This is a lot of food, by the way. And the bev, we do have the Diet Coke. So let's go ahead and dig in because I am quite hungry. It's pretty good. It's loaded with protein, fiber, and deliciousness. So I'm going to go ahead and chow this down and I'll get with you guys with all the macros. So here are the macros for it. We have 1,001.15 calories with 116 grams of protein, 67 grams of carbs, and 36 grams of fat. With 40 grams of fiber, by the way, which is probably way over what I'm supposed to be eating. 5 grams of sugar and 1,296 milligrams of sodium. So, fiber is insanely high, but 1,000 calories for a massive dinner like that, it's not too shabby. Would I consider this low calorie? No, but it does pass the protein test. So, but I do have a light breakfast and a light lunch, so the heavy dinner at the end will kind of help me sleep and so forth. As I continue to be stuffed throughout the day, later I'll be having 2 of these guys. So these are the Quest protein bars. 150 calories each with 18 grams of protein each. So nice little dessert for that. Ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube world, we have finished up eating for the day and what my meal is going to consist of throughout the week. Now to kind of wrap everything up, I'm going to go over basically the macros for the entire day. So we're starting off the entire meal with 2,029 calories with 239 grams of protein, 113 grams of carbohydrates, 74 grams of fat, 51 grams of fiber, by the way, 14 grams of sugar, and 3,200 milligrams of sodium. So pretty high on the sodium. So a lot of it has to do with the sausage and a little bit of the beef with the canned tomatoes. But if you want the less sodium, you can use fresh tomatoes and just pulsate them. And then for the meat, I mean, meat has sodium in it, so that's just kind of how it is. But that's pretty much it for what I eat in a day throughout the week for my weight loss. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I hope these videos inspire you to start your weight journey if you wish to. And you can incorporate these recipes into your weight loss journey, as they should help with your weight loss, as they are doing for mine. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the journey, especially with others who are very interested in starting their journey, as this will hopefully help them motivate to do it themselves. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube world. Stay disciplined and stay focused.